Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We warmly welcome you to the PeMSARC 2025 Pre-Congress Workshop held for the third consecutive year with the generous contribution of our proud sponsor, PeMSARC UK.
Ladies and gentlemen, to honor this esteemed institution, please rise for the University Anthem.
To commence today's proceedings, we would like to cordially invite the Conference Chairperson of PeMSARC 2025. She is an immensely experienced researcher and an extremely valued member of our faculty staff, in addition to being a senior lecturer in community medicine.
Her research interests are in child and adolescent health, injury prevention, nutrition and lifestyle, and the prevention of STI and HIV/AIDS. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Samidhi Navaratna to welcome the gathering.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So let me warmly welcome all of you all to the pre-congress workshop of the 4th Peradeniya Medical School Annual Research Conference, PeMSARC 2025. So let me extend a warm welcome to our esteemed Dean, Sir. It's an honor to have you. Thank you for gracing this occasion in spite of your busy schedule. And let me welcome all the resource persons of the day. Professor R. Siri Abhigunawardana, Senior Professor in Pediatrics. Professor Sam Kularatna, former Senior Professor in Medicine. Professor Dilip De Silva, Chair Professor of the Community Dentistry Department, and Professor Pradeepa Bandarnayaka, Professor in Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, and Professor Ragel, who would be joining us later on, Professor in Computer Engineering, along with all our other esteemed academic members who have joined with us today, and all the non-academic staff members and our dear students. So we are sincerely grateful to PEMSA UK for their generous sponsorship, which has played a vital role in making this event possible. So a special welcome to Dr. Ashan Gunaratna, President of PEMSA UK in absentia, and in his absence, I hoped that Professor Yunana Karam, the current President of the PEMSA mother body, would be joining us. I see that she is yet to join us, so I welcome her as well. And I would also like to welcome our inaugural Dean, Professor Vasanthi Pinto, inaugural Dean of PEMSARC, I should say. Professor Vasanthi Pinto, Madam, it's heartwarming to see you here today with us. Thank you very much for your continued support for PEMSARC. And I would also like to express my deepest appreciation to all the executive committee members whose dedication and hard work has brought this event to life. Your efforts are truly invaluable. So, without much ado, I think we should start the proceedings of the day. And as the chairperson of PeMSARC'2025, I take this opportunity to invite all of you all to the inaugural ceremony of PeMSARC'2025, which will take place on May 20th at this very venue. So I'm sure it will be a very colorful and an inspiring and enriching event. So I hope to see all of you all there. And so without much ado, we'll start the program, today's program. Thank you.
We warmly welcome the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Peradeniya, a driving force in the organization of PeMSARC'25.
His research interests are in pain medicine, labor analgesia, and COVID-19. Please join hands to warmly welcome Professor Saman Nanayakara to address the gathering.
Good afternoon, former Deans, Professor Asiri Abhigunwardana and Professor Vasanthi Pinto. Our panel of speakers for the day, heads of departments, professors and other members of the academic staff, members of the non-academic staff and organizing committee, my dear students. So it is indeed a pleasure to be part of this important gathering, the pre-congress workshop of PeMSARC'25, an event that marks the beginning of a wider academic celebration within our Faculty of Medicine. So PeMSARC', as many of you are aware, is not simply an annual fixture in our academic calendar, but it represents an evolving academic culture that places research and critical inquiry at the heart of medical education. It is designed to encourage our undergraduates, postgraduates and staff, both academic and non-academic, to actively contribute to generation of knowledge. Research is no longer a luxury in our lives. It's an essential component of professional and academic identity and development. In any field, the ability to question, investigate, inquire and articulate evidence-based answers is central to our role in medicine and allied fields. Considering today's pre-congress workshop, we truly hope it will guide you through the research process, helping you understand how an idea grows from the first step, marking the official start of this year's conference. The theme under two highly relevant and insightful sessions. Session 1 as Your Research, Your Journey, where we explore the personal narratives, motivations and milestones that define our research paths. Session 2, Navigating Your Research, offering practical insights into landscapes of research. So we are fortunate to have a distinguished panel of speakers today. Professor S.A.M. Gunaratna, Senior Professor in Medicine, who just retired from active service in the country, but he is still working. Professor A. Sabe Gunwardana, Senior Professor in Pediatrics, former Dean of the Faculty of Medicine. Professor Roshan Ragel, Professor in Computer Engineering. Professor Dilip De Silva, who is a Professor in Community Dentistry. And Professor Pradeep Pas, C. Bandaranayaka, Professor in Molecular Biology and Biotechnology, who have demonstrated excellence across clinical, academic and interdisciplinary fields. Their insights will undoubtedly serve as both guidance and inspiration to all of you. I would also like to remind you that the value of this workshop lies not only in listening, but in engaging. So, if you have questions, at least ask at the end of the session. Share their experiences and view this as part of a larger step towards becoming a competent, thoughtful, and ethical contributor to the academic and professional world. I would also like to express my gratitude to the organizing committee led by Professor Samiti Navaratna, Head of Department of Community Medicine, to the Chair of PeMSARC'2025, Secretary Treasurer, and students, the organizing committee students, all of you. Thank you very much, and I would also like to remind, we have the main session on 20th. Please take part in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. This afternoon, we focus on empowering early career researchers with practical, context-driven insights that go beyond textbooks towards real-world research challenges, career building, and scientific contribution. Our first session, titled Your Research, Your Journey, will be delivered by a renowned academic and a pediatrician whose work has inspired generations of clinicians and researchers.
Professor Asili Abhigulawardena is a chair professor of pediatrics at the University of Peradeniya. A pioneering pediatric nephrologist, he has led transformative work in nephrotic syndrome and pediatric renal disease management. His leadership in initiating the first pediatric renal biopsy program outside Colombo marked a turning point in regional child health services. Beyond clinical care, Professor Abhigulawardena is a dedicated mentor and educator, guiding numerous postgraduates and undergraduates on their academic journeys. We cordially invite Professor Abhigulawardena to deliver his presentation.
Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you very much for those kind words of introduction. And my sincere gratitude for the student organizers for inviting me to deliver this lecture, Your Research, Your Journey. This is to inspire young people to engage in more research, and sometimes you may think that having a research module is an added stress for you. But I'm going to tell you that it's not the case. So I will be sort of focusing the impact of research on my professional career. And I will be sort of focusing my talk mainly on what is meant by research and the importance of it, and the research culture in Sri Lanka. My career in research through the dark tunnel. You will not realize why I say it's the dark tunnel. Impact of research in building a professional career. What is meant by research? If you look at the definitions by Oxford or Cambridge, they looks more similar. A careful study of a subject, especially in order to discover new facts or information about it. Why do we need research? Research is the only tool that contributed to development and progression of the mankind. From the Stone Age to the rocket science, it all happened through research. What are the top 10 medical discoveries we know? Most of these things happened way back in 1980s and 1990s. The most important one for me is the discovery of successful renal transplantation by Joseph Murray from Boston in 1954. He overcame the immunological rejection by getting the kidney from an identical twin. And that was the success behind that human construct. Four basic questions I would ask is, what is a research culture? Do we have a research culture in Sri Lanka? Why we don't have a research culture, and how do we build a research culture? So what do you mean by a research culture? Is a research culture refers to a shared values, behaviors, expectations, attitudes, and norms within the research community that influence how research is conducted and experienced. Now, do we have a research culture in Sri Lanka? When you look at the global level, we are 81st of 240 countries, behind Ethiopia and Ghana in all subjects. In medicine, we are 78 out of 240, behind Nepal and Iraq, which is war-torn country. And if you look at the Asia, we are still 16, and we are behind Nepal and Philippines. So we are not doing very well on research at all. So when you look at the research output data, you can see where we are when compared to the regional countries. And when you look at the people who are in research, it's 106 per million people in full-time research. That's a very small number when compared to other countries. The technical articles are only 1,300, and expenditure is very little, 0.11% of the GDP, and very few patent applications from our country. When you look at the studies that are published in medicine, majority are descriptive studies, letters and case reports. Very few randomized controlled trials or very few basic research publications. That is what will make the difference, because most of the time it's the randomized controlled trials and the basic research that will change our practice or help to have a recognition to our country. So why don't we have a research culture? One of the reasons is that lack of research culture is that limited experience in research in the people who are practicing, lack of faith in research, and lack of funding, of course, and lack of recognition. Even if you do research, if there is no recognition, you don't want to do it. And difficulties in communication and conflicts, time constraints, because the workload is so much, limited human resources, and harassment. Because very often people wonder why harassment. Sometimes you get harassed. Sorry if there are ethics committee members here. Sometimes the ethical committees do harass research people, because this has happened in many institutes where the ethics committees are sort of not promoting research, but they will be sort of stopping research. How do we build a research culture? There are 4 elements that needs: a commitment to become a known scholarly institute, and qualified leaders to guide and planning the development, and financial other resources to support, and of research. That is what is taking place today. So that is a very good step for developing research culture in our institute. Thank you very much for the organizers for doing that. There are other steps, of course: access to funding, protected time for research. You do get protected time, I believe. Inculcate desire to research early, undergraduates and postgraduates. Encourage team up with clinicians, field workers and scientists, so that you can combine research, and also build research networks so you can network with other sectors. Now I will go through my journey through the dark tunnel. Why do I say this dark tunnel? Because I had to find solutions at individual level. That is what I am going to talk about. I started my internship in 1991 at National Hospital, Colombo. At that time, as a final year medical student, if anybody asked me what I will do, I would have said, I always said, except pediatrics, any other topic. Right? So I was more keen to do surgery, so therefore I chose Professor Unit, Colombo Surgery Unit, which was led by Professor H. Sharifdeen, who was a renowned scientist and an extremely capable surgeon, and he is the person who did the first adult transplantation in Sri Lanka. And also I did the medicine at Ward 55 and 56 under Dr. Surendra Ramachandran, who was one of the exceptional clinicians Sri Lanka has ever produced. And he was manning the renal unit at that time and the dialysis unit, so we got a lot of experience in renal medicine because of the surgical unit and the medical unit both were doing renal medicine. And of course, he was always encouraging the juniors to have a research mind and also to try and publish something or present something in international forums. During that time, I came across a child who had reduction syndrome. He was a lovable child, when they are on steroids, they are always bubbly and very affectionate. So, those days, I did not do my pediatric appointment very well because I was not very keen on doing pediatrics, so my knowledge about pediatric nephrotic syndrome was quite limited. But I like this child, and whenever he comes with a relapse, he used to come to my side because I used to cuddle him and sort of comfort him. So 3-4 times he comes, we treat with steroids, put him back and send him home, he comes again, that was the story. One day he came with great difficulty of breathing. I called the registrar and registrar. By that time I have given some plasma and fusimide. He said that's all you can do, and he went away. So I called the on-call physician and I said, can you come and see this patient? He was not very happy, but he came. And he also said, now give another plasma and fusimide. So I gave that, and child told me this. And he grabbed me and he died on my shoulders. So that was a very emotional moment for me. And during this period, I came to Peradeniya for something, and I saw few children with nephrotic syndrome running around in the pediatric ward. And the head of the department met me and said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "I'm at Colombo General doing medicine." So she said, "Why don't you join the department of pediatrics?" Because I had a distinction in pediatrics as well. There was no distinctions like today. For the entire batch, there was only one distinction in pediatrics. So that really sort of changed my mind because I like these children with nephrotic syndrome, and I saw this. So I thought, okay, I will join the department of pediatrics. And as a post intern, I joined the department and I got through my part one, the first attempt, topping the merit list. And when I went to the appointments to get the appointment, the professor in Colombo asked me, "Where are you now?" I said, "Sir, I joined the professorial unit pediatrics Peradeniya." "Ah, you joined the non-professorial unit of Peradeniya." Because we did not have a professor at that time. From 1990 to 2004, our unit did not have a professor in pediatrics. He said, "I asked, so why did you say that? So, where is your unit? For the last 10 years, I haven't seen any of your people making any presentations in the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians." So actually, our department was not sort of research unit at all at that time. It's nothing to take away from those great pediatricians. They were highly committed for patient care. And a research culture was not there, no rewards for research, so they just went on doing it. So I came back and told my consultants here, "Look here, this is what I was told by these people, and what can we do?" So they said, "You are the young people, you take on, and you start your journey on research." So I started reading journals on pediatrics to see what you can do. And with my research interest in renal medicine, I found many articles on UTI, nephritic syndrome and nephrotic syndrome, published in large numbers describing various patterns. So I went and told my consultants, "Why don't we do something on this? We have lots of patients." So Dr. Lalija Sena, the head of the department, said, "I'll take the nephrotic syndrome," and later Dr. Abhay Sekara, who was a great pediatrician and a real support for young people, took over the UTI and nephrotic syndrome. So we started collecting patients and looking at different angles of this patient. So we did the manual databases we did not have computers at that time, manual databases for UTI, nephrotic syndrome and nephrotic. In 1994, year after I joined the department, we went on to present 5 conference papers, 3 in the Sri Lanka College of Pediatrics and 2 in the KSM. In 1998, when I left for overseas training, I had 15 conference papers and 1 journal publication. So, which was a big achievement for me at that time. And that really helped me to get a good post in United Kingdom. At those days, getting a paid post, even in the district hospital, was extremely difficult. But with my CV showing so much of presentations in conferences, they wanted to take me into a regional hospital. At the end of 2 years of training, I was almost getting ready to come back to Sri Lanka. And when I accidentally going through the British Medical Journal, I saw this advertisement calling for a research registrar at Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital to research in childhood nephrotic syndrome. Again, my favorite area is appearing on the advertisement. So I thought, my God, this is very nice. Can I apply for it? Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital is the first children's hospital in the UK and one of the most advanced children's hospitals in the entire world. And before I went to this place, during the first year I went with my wife and showed this hospital and told her this is the best place to work and I don't think I will be able to do this in this generation, maybe in the next generation. Then I went and told my supervisors about this. They said, don't apply, there is no point. They are just advertising for sake of advertisement. I'm sure they have somebody in mind in their hospital alone. So they were not interested. But there was one Indian registrar who was working with me. She said, even if you go there and wash the toilets, it is an achievement for you. So let's get your CV. And she just did a wonderful this one. She separated all my work in nephrology and said work experience in nephrology, publications in nephrology, and did a nice CV and we sent it to for the hospital. And surprisingly, I was called for an interview. I was really surprised when I got it, and my consultants there was jubilant with that, and they had 7 mock interviews for me. They sat down and asked me questions and trained me for various questions how to answer because they were so keen for me to get that job. When I went there, they were only asking few questions. One was on my research. Why you have 15 presentations, no publication, 1 publication? What is it? So I said, we don't have a research culture in Sri Lanka. I present them in these forums and there are foreign speakers who come, they criticize, they give ideas, so I am developing myself by doing so. So after the interview, not like in Sri Lanka, they called the person who was selected. So they called me and said, we decided to hire you. The 2 reasons. 1, you have done your CV specifically for this job. That means you are really interested in this job. The 2 is you are really working for this job and you want to improve your research. We thought we should help you. There were 2 British applicants. In spite of that, they took me. So that was a great achievement. That is the 15 presentations that I did. However, once I went to the job, it was the most challenging period of my career. First day when I went in, the first person, the head of the department said, this is the place for you. Okay, you can get on with your work and we went home. The lady next to me, she asked, how did you come here? I said, I had an interview and I came. Where are you from? I said, I'm from Sri Lanka. What is your first degree? I'm from University of Peradeniya. How come? All these people here are Cambridge graduates. How come you come here? Right? I said, I don't know. They selected me. Right? So that was the start of the place. And doing one course for a highly advanced renal unit was really difficult because most of the language they were talking I didn't understand because I was a pediatric person. And then the problem was new research projects have to be developed by me, right? I had absolutely no idea about developing research protocols, ethical approvals, applying for them, sample size calculations or regarding different types of research. No, we did not have any training at all during our undergraduate or postgraduate training. So I had absolutely no idea. So my mind was wondering what to do now, where to focus, how to write a proposal, fear of embarking on research, lack of knowledge, what about what are the areas I should choose, whom to ask, from where to start. I did not know. So I thought, let me go and speak to my supervisor. I went and asked for an appointment of the secretary. I said, I want half an hour. So immediately I was told, you can come now. So first thing he asked, why did you ask for an appointment? I said, I thought you can come and straight meet me. I said, no, because I want to talk something very personal. Okay, go on. So I said, I have no experience in research. I applied for this because I want to learn about research. So I was wondering whether he will kick me out because why did they hire me for this? But the response was very encouraging. He said, I knew that actually. When you came, we knew that you don't know much, right? But we will learn fast, right? That is why we hired you. Don't worry. There are plenty of courses to get your knowledge. I will guide you for that. And he sent me for different courses in statistics, research protocol development, everything. And introduced me to high-profile scientists to develop collaborative work. So whenever I went and meet them, I was gathering knowledge. Encouraged me to submit research for prestigious meetings and submit papers for high-profile journals. And also he arranged me to speak on very meetings. After 1 month into the job, I get an invitation to speak on childhood nephrotic syndrome for a high-powered meeting. I wondered what is this, and I took that invitation and ran to him and said, I don't know whether this is a mistake, asking me to speak. No, this is what we want. Right? We want you to be a good speaker by the time you leave this place. Right? And I want you to be a better researcher, better speaker than me when you leave. That is what is meant by mentoring. I'm very lucky to have people of that nature. Right? So I have rapid progression on research. My first presentation I submit was to the Royal College of Pediatrics and Childhood, got rejected. So I was very upset. I told him, I don't think this research qualifies for it. Why you say that? You should not judge your own papers. Rejection doesn't mean that something is bad. We go for a better meeting. We went for a British Renal Association meeting, which is a much bigger meeting, and I got the best over presentation. Now for that, the 4 plenary presentations was there, the best 4. Out of 3 was from our institute. But they focused only on me because I am the most inexperienced. They had 9 rehearsals with me. All the department members came and listened to me. And those, the project, the transmitting projector had to be hired at £30 per hour. Right? The unit has to pay for that. So 9 times they hired me to train me. And the day that I was presenting, I could even present without even looking at anything because right? Because of practicing so much. So I got the best oral presentation about. The first research publication was submitted to KIT International. Impact factor about 9 or 10 got rejected. There was 30-page review on that for giving reasons for rejection and guidance for improvement. So I told my consultant, now I will go for a lower. Why lower? You go higher. Go to the Lancet. And Lancet accepted it. Right? So my first publication was. So this is what is important. You never aim low, aim higher. Right? At the end of 2 years of training, I was a accomplished clinician and I had a rich portfolio of publications. On my return, the professor of pediatric nephrology asked me, when you go back, will you do general nephrology or will you focus on one area? I said, I would like to focus on nephrotics. He said, very good. Look at me myself. I am like a beautiful butterfly. I am an expert in Kawasaki. I am an expert in lupus. I am an expert in hypertension. I am an expert in renal transplantation. But I am not the expert on any of this, right? But instead, look at the head of the department, Adrian Wolf. He is the expert, right? It's the worm that digs holes, right? And the butterflies are only beautiful. So focus on one thing, work on that, you will be successful. So I think that was a great advice. So I focused on beyond nephrotics. So after returning to Sri Lanka, and many of people would say, lack of time, lack of funds to do research. I mean, it was not uncommon for me. The workload was very high. We had only 3 pediatricians for the first 10 years of my career in the department. So the workload was extremely high. I mean, everybody knows how my private practice was. I mean, I would have seen more than 100 patients per day in the afternoons. But in spite of that, I have been doing my research work as well. In addition, I was able to commence through renal services, develop electronic databases for chronic kidney disease and nephrotic syndrome, and we were able to commence a pediatric renal transplant program for the first time in Sri Lanka in 2004. We went ahead of Colombo. Right? Colombo started only in 2014. That is a training from a trainee whom I have trained. 3 years after returning to Sri Lanka, I have delivered 2 orations, received Best Oral Presentation Award from Kati Society of Medicine, Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians, and International Pediatric Nephrology Association. Actually, I had more than adequate marks to apply for merit promotion in 2005. But I did not do so because I had to wait until my senior colleague applied and get that appointment, because it would have been very unfair for the teacher to be junior to me. So once that person and the madam got promoted, I applied and got the promotion in 2000. Then I became chair professor and senior professor in 2015. I was invited to become the board of study of chairperson in pediatrics in 2015. I was the Center for Kidney Disease Research in 2014. I was the president of the Sri Lanka College of Pediatricians in 2018, and also I became the dean of the faculty in 2018. Probably because of my research. If the research was not there, I would have been nowhere. And by that time, I have delivered 8 orations, including the most prestigious Sri Lanka Medical Association oration. In addition, I have collaborated with eminent institutes like Duke Medical School in USA, University College London, University of Bristol, McGill University Canada, or the hospital in UK. This is because our patient base in Sri Lanka here is a gold mine for them. So they are doing all the studies with us. And even next month, there will be a team from UK and Canada coming to do some work with our microbiology department in doing some genetic work. The research publications comes without any hassle. When you are collaborating, all these journal articles goes in high-profile journals, and your citations and everything keeps on going up. So you do get international recognition. You get invited to speak on International Nephrology Association in Italy and Cape Town in 2025. And also I was invited to deliver a special lecture on how I developed the pediatric transplant program in Sri Lanka, because under very low resource setting this was developed. And in 2017, we completed 100 renal transplantations. For these achievements, I was given this outstanding Asian Pediatric Award in 2018 in the conference in Bali. And recently, I was given the president-elect of Asia Pacific Conference Association, and the next Asia Pacific Pediatric Conference will be held in Colombo in 2026. and I will be the Congress chair as well, and I will be elected as the President of the Association in 2026. I will just focus on two randomized controlled studies I did, right, with very little funding, just for patients with nephrotic syndrome. When they get viral infection, little bit of steroids was given to them during the injection to minimize the cytokine release. The scientific hypothesis was that, and it did reduce the relapse rate. And it was published in very high impact journal, as well as when this gentleman, Professor Martin Christian, did a plenary lecture in the European Society of Pediatric Nephrology Association meeting in Valencia, Spain last year. He described these two studies and showed as evidence. And not only that, he went into details of the study structure. The study did not take much money at all. The prednisolone and little bit of placebo, right? Simple study, a lot of impact because it changed the practice. Because now children, when they get infections, they get steroids after these two studies and two other studies. So the take-home message for all researchers is remember research is the future. Do not wait for university to provide with you everything. Select your own path. Develop curiosity about your field. Think how you can contribute and improve your field and contribute to the progression of mankind. Ask help from national and international experts. Don't try to do on your own. Ask help, right? Because you get ideas. Believe that your work will be someday will be recognized, right? Try to collaborate with other institutes because you get increased power in that studies. Never give up. You can have hiccups all the time. So I will end up my talk with a quote from Sir Winston Churchill. Never, never, never give up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that reflective and motivating session.
We now transition into session 2, which takes a grounded, practical look at conducting impactful research within the limitations of our resource-constrained settings. Our next speaker is a leading authority in clinical research and tropical medicine.
Professor S.A.M. Kularatne was the former chair professor of medicine at University of Peradeniya, with extensive contributions to clinical toxicology, envenoming, and infectious diseases. With over 200 publications and academic roles internationally, he exemplifies how high-impact research can thrive even with modest resources. In today's talk, he brings us practical tools, strategies, and mindsets for how low-cost, high-efficiency research in local settings. We cordially invite Professor Kularatne to deliver his presentation.
Good afternoon. Dean Professor Nanayakar, Chair of the conference, Professor Samadi Navaratne, the other resource persons, and all the students. Let me thank Professor Navaratne for inviting me to present today at this meeting after even my retirement, right? I was very happy that I am still recognized to talk to students. And then I like to thank the student organizers for detailing time and encouraging me. Professor Gunawardena said a lot of things, what I am going to say, some repetition, and it's a low-cost, high-impact research, and some way forward, that's what I am going to talk. So in medical curriculum, even during my time, most disliked words are research and statistics, right? So what is research? Already mentioned. It's a systematic process of collecting and analyzing data to understand phenomena which is being tested. When we talk about the cost in research, so that is the main thing I'm going to address, is cost involved in research. Yes, you would say cost is involved. For what purpose cost involved in research? For your way, material, method, publication fee, all need money. So how to find funds for research? You are well aware, students, there are so-called research grants. So applying to research grants and winning research grants, that's one method. For collaboration, if somebody has a research grant, you can collaborate with that researchers and continue the work. So otherwise, self-generated funds. So money is everything, you need money. So then I talk about what is impact of research. Impact. First is that impact of research to generate new knowledge, already we mentioned, to change the practice and attitudes, practice of patient care, the advancement of science and technology in research. So there are some indirect benefits to the institution. For example, the University of Peradeniya, if you do research and contribute, the university ranking will go up. So those are overall benefits of your research and the impact. Other than that, there are personal benefits. So research degrees are very necessary to the advancement of career. So research is necessary for promotions, job opportunities. Then in return, we get awards, again personal ranking, and the colorful CV. As Professor Abhinavan said, with many research, the CV becomes very colorful. Personally, you get happiness, and it's good for your legacy. If you publish and if you write, only your name will remain in this world. Otherwise, your name will disappear. So that is another reason. Then who is the researcher? That's the definition for researcher. The professional who conduct systematic investigations usually discover new information to enhance understanding in a specific field. So that is the definition of research. According to my view, there are two categories of researchers. One is a career researcher. Earlier, that term was mentioned, early career research. Career research is part of life, hobby, passion, inquisitiveness, curiosity. Somebody take up research. For those reasons, qualify for career research. Then there is obligatory research. That means you do research under obligation. For promotions, for exams, like students here, to pass community medicine, you need to do research. Right? So that's the exam. And for the job opportunities. Then there's another term called academic age. It is the time that a scientist has been in research field and performing active research. Academic age. So this period varies. In some persons, academic age is very short. Right? Very rarely, somebody can have a long academic age. Very long academic age. The best example I can think of Dr. Anselm Silva. I think you may know about him or not. He is a world-renowned herpetologist, expert in crocodiles, amphibians, and so on. Anselm is now almost 85 years, but still he is doing active research. I knew when he started research, when I was doing my A-levels, his name was appearing in newspapers. You can imagine the time he started his work. In USA, Singapore and all developed countries, research is a mandatory component. There's a saying, publish or perish. Right? Publish or perish. You do not publish, right? No career. So what is the situation of Sri Lanka? Can we survive without doing research or publication? I am sure we can survive, right? But in future that will change. So that's the very reason I am sure the communication department is doing these type of workshops. It also has introduced this to the medical curriculum for students to be aware of research, to take up research career as well as to develop a research culture. So that's the purpose. Things will change in time. So when I put this cost and impact together, basically you can get this kind of formula. High cost, high impact research, high cost, low impact research, low cost, low impact research, low cost, high impact research. So these are the possibilities. I think high cost, high impact research happens occasionally, right? But other two are happening frequently. For example, high cost, a lot of grants are used to produce research, but hardly any impact, right? But if you can do low cost research with high impact, that's happening rarely, occasionally. That is very important. I mean, being Sri Lankan, our resources are very much limited. I am always encouraging to try more. Best example of low cost, high impact research in Sri Lanka I can think about is publication. This is a New England Journal publication in 1987, neurotoxic effects of organophosphorus insecticides, and it had only hardly any cost involved. Right? Some patients who were in Peradeniya ICU were the subjects. So it was published in the New England Journal. Its current impact, that means 2020, is 96. You can think about the impact of any year. So they are the authors, Professor Nimal Naik, Professor Lakshman Karaliya. Students maybe know this. To eminent scientists, researchers, and clinicians. Professor Nimal Naik is my mentor, my predecessor. He was the chair of medicine, retired about 10 years ago, or 13 years ago. Professor Lakshman Karaliya gave one of my teachers who was in Peradeniya. So I have a lot of respect to these two teachers. So they did this publication, and I want to just say a few things about this intermittent syndrome. What is it? It's a complication of organophosphate poisoning happening after 24 hours, just after cholinergic phase. Patients were going into respiratory failure. Are there previous description? No, it was not described previously. So it was a first-hand description. That means the original publication. In the organophosphate was tested as a chemical, they have done some animal experiments. That's the only evidence. I had a lot of experience about organophosphate poisoning as a student and as a junior doctor. We also saw a lot of patients. Even 1982, when I was doing my internship, very first day itself, as a first day intern, I had to manage 4 patients with organophosphate poisoning. It was so common. Now the trend has changed. So I remember, even during that time, we used to see patients, once they recover from the initial cholinergic phase, third day, fourth day, they were developing respiratory failure. So we were not actually giving any care to that. We were trying to actually manage the patient, save the patient's life, but not didn't want to think beyond that. So that was the unique of these two authors. They were very inquisitive of what was happening. So that's how this intermediate syndrome was developed, and it it is a original finding, and no cost involved at all for that. So I actually went to Professor Marcel and a Google scholar. You see that particular study was cited more than 1,000 times. Heavily cited work. I mean, that is the most important paper in this field of poison research. Other than that, Professor Marcel Naik has published a lot of work on pesticides as well as epilepsy and so on. All these research work did not have much cost, no any cost. So he became a world-renowned researcher by doing no-cost research, right? More than the no-cost research. Now I would like to say a few words from his autobiography, from the Marcel Naik autobiography. It was launched in this lecture theatre 1 year ago, and it is very interesting reading his autobiography. His publication, very first publication, he published as an intern house officer. That was post-chemic paresthesia and diabetes mellitus. It was published in one of the reputed journals. How he got this opportunity was by associating with Professor K.N. Sengra in medical faculty Colombo. So for his fortune, he met this professor and he introduced him to the research field. Likewise, Professor Abhimanyu mentioned there was a mentor or supervisor to give initial hand. So leaving that, I will just few words about clinician and research mind. Most of the medical graduates end up as clinicians. So as clinicians, you get a lot of opportunities of doing clinical research, also come across research questions. So it is important in recognizing the pattern and trends and health problems and generate curiosity to investigate unusual manifestations. Also think out of the box. Generate questions, critical think. Also need to read literature. If you have interest in particular field, you need to read literature. Also good to associate with mentors and those who are having experience. Also learn about research and have a positive attitude. So my experience about research is clinical research is a byproduct of rational and analytical clinical practice. As clinicians, we do our practice, clinical practice, and without our knowledge, we see, or without our thinking, these are some new trends, new observations. So that is a research question. So finding a research question is a great difficulty. So the starting research has two ways. One thing is you first do research and learn the research methodology, or vice versa. It's like swimming. You can start swimming by just jumping into the water and swim, and later learn the method. So this research question, that is the most important part in research. You have to find a very good question. That's what is called final criteria. Research question should be feasible, interesting, it should be novel, ethical and relevant. So if all those are there is a better research question. So research fields are there, the topic is there, then you need to find the question. So what so-called researchable question, that should be articulated and brainstormed. Then find the appropriate method. Either you create the method or by convention you find the method and test your research question. So research question, as I said, is the cornerstone of research. So you can find the research question if you are in that field for a long time. It's easier to come. But sometimes that's what is term called intuition and research. So I had the opportunity to talk about intuition and research at difficulty in Peradeniya research session. Because of that, actually, I did a research on intuition. I interviewed more than 20 expert researchers about intuition and got a good idea. So what is intuition? The spontaneous origination of thought without conscious and logical reason. If you get a research question in your mind without any reasoning, that is intuition. So good researchers, they get research thought and research idea just by intuition. Sigmund Freud, he said, in vital matters, decisions should come from unconscious, from somewhere within ourselves. So that is intuition. That's the one big study. In a group of researchers, they actually interviewed more than 70 Nobel laureates to find the term intuition, the definition of intuition, and according to them, scientific intuition seems developed through extended and varied experience of the object of research. So that is what Nobel laureates thought. Albert Einstein, he said, it is not that I am so smart, it is just that I stayed with the problem wrong. So I know that, I think that you know well about Einstein, right? So that is what he really said. Very genuinely. He said, he stayed with the problem wrong. If you are a researcher, if you stay with research wrong, right, then you become smart. Research method. So the Department of Cognitive Medicine teach students about this research method. I am not going to describe these things, just to show you there are so many research methods accepted and known in the scientific world where you can select the research method. And there are research pyramids. What research are having more impact than others. Right? So good to know about the research method and how to do that. Therefore, when the students actually, these organizers met me, they wanted me to talk about the interesting topics where they can think about doing research. So everything, all the topics are interesting, all the fields are interesting. Right? So there's no particular field. But common fields are better. If you take diabetes as an illness, it is very common. In Sri Lanka, 1 in 8 individuals is having diabetes. If you go to research in diabetes, right? So there are a lot of opportunities. Also, there are so many conferences in the world that is diabetes is present, but hardly any papers are coming from here. So we may be having something very interesting. Even we can label it as tropical diabetes and do research. Any field can be a researchable field in the topic. I already mentioned about the researchable question and the objective and aims. You need to think about objective. Whether discover, explore, explain, describe, compare. This is how you start. But in methodology, in cognitive medicine methodology, always they talk about hypothesis. Sometimes students get confused about what is this hypothesis. It's a testable statement. But hypothesis is not mandatory when question can be converted to a testable state. Cannot be converted to testable state. Hypothesis is not mandatory, but if it is there, better to use it. In my career already, I must thank the introduction about me. And I had the opportunity of doing one collaborative research on dengue with the German team. So with that I was able to visit Germany and to work with them for a while. And the greatest opportunity I had was to visit Robert Koch Institute. As a researcher who is actually dealing with infection, if you have that opportunity, it's a great opportunity and that achievement. I'm sure you know this Robert Koch is a German physician, founder of modern bacteriology. Koch postulated in microbiology, and he won Nobel Prize in 1905. Then I would say, I would just mention about the landmark discovery. One is peptic ulcer disease. Why I actually mention this, even I didn't know about this details for this discovery, because Dr. Lukpiti, who is a former dean, he used to always say about these two scientists, Barry Marshall and Robin Warren. Actually, they were the two scientists who discovered Helicobacter pylori. That was the cause of peptic ulcer disease, and they won the Nobel Prize in 2005. Because it was a remarkable discovery and it was touching. I mean, before this discovery that happened in 1982, I was a student, right? Even an intern in early 80s. During that time, peptic ulcer disease was so common in the wards, surgical wards. There were not peptic ulcer perforations. They were ending up with surgeries, even deaths. But after this discovery and changing the treatment, whole epidemiology of peptic ulcer and outcomes. No doubt, actually, they won the Nobel Prize. So dissemination of research is the most important. That is the publication. You need to target getting published, publish your research. So selection of appropriate journal. You know that each journal has what is called impact factor, but there are a lot of debate about this impact factor because journals manipulate this impact, right? If you can do systematic reviews and publish, then the impact factor goes. The journals can manipulate, right? So, but the trend is to go for a high impact factor journal. Then the calculation of that, there's another set of journals called predatory journals. Students should know about these predatory journals. They are bogus journals. So you should not actually send your article to these journals and spend your money. It's useless. Then there are open access journals. They are very open to the readership, but it involves quite a lot of cost. Subscription journals, they are not open access. They are hybrid journals. Then the facing rejections. Most of the time, papers are rejected by one or two journals. What not to give up? That's why we need what is called resilience and persistence. Sometimes, after rejection, the quality improves. I heard about one particular one of the best publications so far in economics that was rejected 12 times. But it is accepted as the best paper in economics. Then the time from research idea to execution. When you get a research idea, test it and finish it out. If you postpone it, it will never happen. Attribute of researchers, how the researcher, if you take a researcher, how you are measured. If you measure, you are measured by productivity and continuation. Productivity, how many research work you produce, how many papers you publish, and how many years you do that. That's why you become a career researcher. Your academic age, then the quality and quantity of scientific output, quality as well as quantity. Then the what is called H index. All of us are having H index. There's a university ranking of the academics on H index. Then there's the I-10 index. These are matrix. Then there are citations. So be a genuine researcher. That's also another important matter. You have to be a genuine researcher. The research fields are not only medicine, there are science, arts and commerce. There are research fields. I am just showing this slide to says one important work. I mean, you would have actually read this novel called Roots that was published in 1976. The TV series that just still on this Roots. That's a very interesting story. One black American is a journalist, Alex Healy. He wanted to find his roots. So he investigated and he found his great ancestor came from Gambia in 1767. He was a slave. That was the peak of slave trading, and he was a slave taken to America. Both 109. So this Alex Healy investigated. He investigated over 12 years. Very interesting to read about that investigating process. So Alex Healy went to Gambia and found over the details as much as possible. Then he wanted to experience the agony of the slave in the sailing ship. So he hired the ship and he stayed in the under deck, right? Naked, tied into by chain, and he experienced that way. He collected all this experience and wrote this novel. So that's the result, right? In a field, that's a commitment. You need a real commitment for research. Then I want to say a few words about Nobel Prize. That's the highest prize in research. Alfred Nobel, in his last will, he wrote, for the greatest benefit of mankind. That means his wealth was actually dedicated to the greatest benefit of mankind. So after that, in 1991, 627 times, more than 1,000 people, more than given the Nobel Prize. So is it possible one of them became a Nobel Prize winner? Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, there are no Nobel Prize in Sri Lanka, right? So it is your generation can target for this type of big prizes and the owner of the country, right? I hope that will happen maybe 10 to maybe 20 to 30 years time even today. So be a researcher, get happiness and satisfaction. Best wishes in the pre-conference workshop as well as the PeMSARC' workshop on creativity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kularagna, for that inspiring session.
We now open the floor for a Q&A session. Please feel free to raise your questions or reflections for either of our two speakers, Professor Abe Gunawardena or Professor Kularagna. Sirs, we cordially invite you on stage for this proceeding.
Good evening, everyone. So, I guess I could ask you on asking both sirs. So, I want to know what we as students can do to actually build our medical career, because medical research career, because there's a lot we can do maybe after we graduate, because we get to work in the field a lot. But when we are students, what can we do to actually improve our medical research career?
Thank you for asking that question, because often you think that research needs lots of time all the time. It is not the case, because when you are doing a clinical appointment, now if you are doing a professorial appointment, it is 8 weeks. So during that 8 weeks, you can certainly do a short study, even an audit. You know, it's all experience. You know, it gives you courage and confidence. So you need to start with something, because during your student period, you can do anything, because it is not a problem. But if you are a consultant, you can't go and make a student presentation, because before that, you know, student period is the best period. Then young intern, like that. So as a junior person, try to do something. Right? Certainly your supervisors will help if you show your interest.
It's a good question actually. I agree with Professor Abhinav. Because it's your interest that you need to start somewhere. As a student, there's no limitation. It's a matter of how you manage your time. So I remember in subject of medicine, we had what is called in professional appointments, submitting 2 case reports. During my time, I introduced it, that the students had to submit 2 case reports in a journal format as an in-course assessment. So those case reports are very interesting. Sometimes there's repetition, students take their shortcuts, right? But they were interesting. I remember some interns during the internship, they sent me those case reports for actually corrections and editing for publication. I'm sure I did help them, but I don't know whether they publish it. But you have to have that positive attitude, even doing a simple case report with your supervisor, and to stay with that until you see the publication. That is what is necessary. So, and start with small and continue. Right? If you are showing your interest with the teachers and supervisors, right, or mentors, automatically actually teachers get interested and help you. That is it. This is your sheer interest that matters. Right? Then you can publish. And after the internship, after the studentship, once you qualify as a doctor, there's a pre-intern period. That is the best period. You can do quite a lot of research, right? Quite a lot of research you can do as a pre-intern. I remember pre-interns who worked with me during my stay here. More than 20 pre-interns, they could sum up 1 or 2 publications during my time, right? As pre-interns, they got some publications. Even some of them won presidential awards, right? Because paper is given awards and all the authors is getting, right? So why it was so successful is my pre-interns during that time, they were very supportive and they were very proactive doing research. Sometimes I didn't have a scheme. They were always behind me, right? They were questioning, right? So I just compelled to work because of that. It's your interest matter.
So first, I want to thank you for the wonderful lectures we had. So my question is based on the fact that in Sri Lanka, the clinical trials are limited. So, as Professor said, that in Sri Lanka, we are mostly done hospital studies and case studies. So, as you know, there are some obstacles along with clinical trials. So, I want to know, like, as us, the doctors who want to implement these kind of studies, how can we face these obstacles, and what are the, from your experience, what kind of advice would you give?
The 2 obstacles are, one is to first get the ethical approval, because clinical trial will always be experimental, and sometimes the ethics committee don't understand the language we speak. To be honest, that is one thing. And then the other thing is you have to get this trial registered in the clinical trial registry. That of course is not so difficult, but because whenever you are doing an interventional study, clinical trials are often an intervention. So there will be some kind of discomfort and harm, potential harm that can take place. So it will be very difficult. There is a difficulty in getting medical clearance for those. I think one of the areas that we have a problem is there. But then if you keep on sort of fighting for it, so you can eventually get it. But the cost-wise, it is not a very big cost for clinical trials. It's the organization that is difficult, because we don't have a good infrastructure to do it. So you may have to develop your own infrastructure. Understand?
I agree. He mentioned about the ethics clearance and so on. As he said, it doesn't cost very much, but organization is the most important. It's a teamwork. You need somebody who has experience in doing clinical trial. It's a teamwork. and also what you really do. Whether you are really introducing a new drug or you are just testing a drug which is available. So intervention. As long as it is ethically okay, no issue, you can do it. But when you are actually dealing with a new drug, then there are so many clearance necessary. For example, nowadays I am actually trying to test a new antibiotic. Right? So it took more than 10 years to develop the antibiotic, and we are trying to do the clinical trials. But other than ethics clearance, we have to get the clearance from NMRA, National in the NMRA, there are a lot of it's a big process. That is correct. It is a new drug which is going to be tested. There are a lot of legal issues are coming. So like that depend on these legal issues and the ethics issues we are testing with clinical trial. But if it's clinical trial on a very simple matter, it's not a difficult. Another problem is if you are trying to test something like a herbal product as a medical person on patient, and there will be a lot of difficulties, right? But to start with a very simple treatment, for example, right, steroids in nephrotism, that is already being used, right? And we have also the benefit, but it does not prove only with the clinical trial. So clinical trial is necessary to prove the benefit, but we may be using that already. So like that in our clinical practice, we are using so many drugs, right? Without by convention, but not having done the clinical trials. So we can do this clinical trial and see. So every treatment in our day-to-day practice can be retested with the clinical trial.
So I have a question. So you spoke about high impact researchers in both sessions. Sir, what I want to know is like when we are doing a research, sometimes one of the most compelling things that drives us is knowing that our research would like as the research said, and it could do a benefit for humankind and everything. But it's just like how do you specifically know whether the research that you're going to do, or at least the research question, will in turn be a high impact research in the process, right? When so you spoke about impact factor, that is after you complete the research. So is there any way of knowing or analyzing a problem that you feel could be high impact research in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because whatever the research you do might be successful, might be unsuccessful. Sometimes you end up with a negative result. Sometimes the negative results will never get published because it has no value. But sometimes the negative results can be useful. So whenever you do a research, you should see whether you will be adding new knowledge to a subject or a disease. So even if it's a descriptive study, say in this class, in this lecture hall, how many would have some kind of, that will be, if it is useful, that will be worthwhile. Now, say, when you test medical students, there are iron deficiency anemia, right? That adds some new knowledge, and that will be helpful. So that will give some. So likewise, there are cross-sectional studies that are extremely useful, because I saw what sometimes we do growth charts. Now these growth charts are not applicable to our children because these charts have been done somewhere else, right? So that can be useful. Now similarly, if it is kidney practice, the way you do it, in spite of 5 days of antibiotics, if you can do 3 days, that is useful. It will change practice. So that is how you should look at it. So the impact will be there.
Yes, it's the relevance of that particular problem. The question to the world, locally, sometimes certain things are relevant for our country, but for the region and the world. If you have a particular question that has a global relevance, that has a better impact. For example, during COVID time, if you do COVID research, if you have done COVID research, then it is published because that was the need during that time. That's how that the dexamethasone study came, right? In COVID, the doctors started using dexamethasone as a treatment. Even when the COVID outbreak started in China, more than 60 publications were there. They have used dexamethasone. But the British team, they tested this systematically with the randomized control trial, and that's called recovery trial, and that became a world hit, right? So it's a simple thing, somebody else tested systematically. That's how we should take the bar in and do it, right? So everything has an impact, right? Think about the relevance to the low class.
Thank you, audience, and thank you, sirs. Sirs, now I would like to invite both to remain on stage. Now, to thank the dedicated professionals who has inspired us all with their insights into the field of research, I would first like to invite Dean, Faculty of Medicine, Professor Saman Nanayakara, to distribute the certificate to Professor Asari Abedulwardhan. Next, I would like to invite Professor Vasanthi Pinto to distribute the certificate to Professor S.A.M. Kularatna.
Thank you, sirs. We will now take a short break for evening tea.
So ladies and gentlemen, we would be amiss if we did not give a background into our three esteemed panelists representing three different faculties of the University of Peradeniya. First of all, it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Professor Dilip De Silva, a distinguished academic in the fields of community dentistry, health systems management and health finance. He currently serves as the Chair Professor of Community Dentistry and the Director of the University Career Guidance Unit. Professor De Silva has made significant contributions over a career spanning over 25 years, including being the head of the Human Resource Division of the Ministry of Health and the consultant to the Health Economic Cell, and he's played a key role in developing Sri Lanka's national health accounts and national health workforce strategies. In recognition of his work, Professor De Silva has received several prestigious awards, including a Merit Award for publications from the National Research Council of Sri Lanka and a National Apex Award for professional excellence in health and medicine. His academic credentials are impressive, with a PhD in healthcare management, an MD, an MS, a Masters of Science in Community Dentistry, and an MBA from the University of Colombo. He is also a chartered banker and a qualified management accountant. His career spanning academia, policy, and finance has earned him national recognition and underscores his continued impact on healthcare policy and management in Sri Lanka. Professor Dilip, the stage is yours.
And it's a privilege to introduce our second panelist for the day, Professor Pradeepa C.G. Bandaranayake, a leading molecular biology and biotechnology expert. She currently serves as a professor in the Faculty of Agriculture at the University of Peradeniya and is the director of the Agricultural Biotechnology Center. Professor Bandaranayake holds a PhD with designated emphasis in biotechnology from the University of California, Davis, and has earned multiple master's degrees in biotechnology, crop science, and law. The research and academic excellence of Professor Bandaranayake has been recognized globally with many awards, including the Fulbright Fellowship, the OWSD Fellowship, Endeavour Fellowship, Cochrane Fellowship, presidential awards in several years, the SLCARP National Award, and National Science Foundation Awards. Professor Bandaranayake has played an instrumental role in advancing biotechnology in Sri Lanka, attracting international and local funding, publishing in globally recognized scientific journals, and supervising many PhDs and MPhils. She serves on the editorial boards of several journals such as the BMC Plant Biology, and serves in several national committees such as the National Research Council, the National Science Foundation, and several grant boards. Her career exemplifies her dedication to academic excellence and practical contributions to Sri Lanka's biotechnology sector. And she continues to inspire with her commitment to innovation and research. Professor Bandaranayake, it's a privilege to welcome you on stage.
Next, introducing our final resource person, Professor Roshan Ragel. Sir, it's my pleasure to introduce you. Professor Roshan G. Ragel, a leading academic and researcher in the field of computer engineering. He is a professor in the Department of Computer Engineering at the University of Peradeniya. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from the University of Peradeniya and a PhD in Computer Science and Engineering from the University of New South Wales, Australia. His area of expertise include the Internet of Things, which we call IoT, wearable computing, bioinformatics, and AI and ML, with over 200 peer-reviewed publications to his name. Professor Ragel's academic and research achievements have earned him multiple prestigious awards. He has been honored with the Presidential Awards for Scientific Publications in 2018 and 2023, and received the most prolific Sri Lankan Author Award from Elsevier in 2017. In 2025, he became the first academic from the Global South to receive the IEEE Computer Society's Mary Kenneth Keller Award for undergraduate teaching. His contributions have significantly advanced Sri Lanka's digital infrastructure and AI policy, and he currently serves as the consulting CEO of the Lankan Research and Education Network, which we know as the Learn Network. Professor Ragel's career is a testament to his dedication to research, teaching, and shaping the future of technology in Sri Lanka. Professor Ragel, the stage is yours.
Right, so before we go to the questions, I'll just give you a small briefing on how this panel discussion is going to go forward. So we'll have 3 segments. In each segment, we'll be directing questions to panelists individually, followed by a segment where we will give them common questions. And at the end, of course, we'll have a Q&A session where you're very welcome to ask any pressing questions that you may have. The questions can be directed to all 3 panelists, so the panelists individually as well. Okay, so during his remarks, Professor Kularatna said that one of the biggest challenges in doing research is actually finding the research question. So I think that is the best place to start this discussion. So our first segment is actually focused on selecting research topics, and we'll be directing the first question to Professor Roshan Ragel. Sir, since your background is in AI-related research, how can AI tools help in brainstorming and formulating a good research question?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. So in fact, when I was asked to make this discussion and the questions, I prepared a long list of slides, and the moderators are worried, right? So how long I'm going to take. So let's see how it goes. So the question is about how we can use AI in coming up with research questions. Or we normally call this aspect as brainstorming. So how do we brainstorm? Usually what we do, we brainstorm with each other, right? So people, your mates, or your supervisors, potential supervisors. But now that there's also AI, in fact AI can do brainstorming reasonably well. In fact, we have done a lot of studies on it, and if you can look at the slides, you'll see that somewhere here we started comparing AI's PhD level attributes, how good it can be compared to a PhD student. It can do pretty well with people, right? So, but in terms of how it can help people, early this year there was a study released on how AI or tools like ChatGPT used in education with students, large number of students. If I remember right, somewhere like 30,000 students was the study was done with 30,000 students, and the top things that are come up in the study are brainstorming. So students are using it for brainstorming, or at least they say they use it for brainstorming, right? So studies, you know how they work, right? So they say they use it for brainstorming as a first thing. So there's a lot to brainstorming. So in terms of what we can do, we can use a lot of tools. So the basic tools that are out there, tools like, let me just take this, tools like connected papers, elicit, cite. These are tools where you can go and put questions or put a statement and ask AI to come up with the papers that are, or research articles that are related. The results are coming from other research articles, they are coming from research databases. We'll talk more about research databases later. So they are come from those. So with that, what we can find is one, the list of research articles that are out there in research databases or research archives, and the other one is how these different research topics or this question are connected to each other. What are the other research papers that are out there, how they are connected, how close they are, how far away they are, depends on the content, what is inside the paper, not by just looking at who wrote it or just the title, but looking at all the content, because AI can do this really fast, going through content, figuring out what it is and matching it with other content, text content. Right, so these are some tools that we can use to do brainstorming. So it's a matter of time for you to spend some time. So I'm just showing some screenshots. So this is coming from Connected Papers, a website called connectedpapers.com. If you go there and put your research question, it will list down one, the most what it thinks the most connected paper to the topic, and then it will also show all the other papers that are connected to that particular paper in that particular context. So it's pretty useful in that sense. And also you can do a lot more, like for example, you can summarize papers, because things like summarizing text using AI is a well-established field. We have been, although this topic like AI is new to the common people, but things like using AI for summarizing is being researched for about 15 years now. So it's pretty well established. So things like summarizing, it can do really well. What else it can do? So there are tools, even if you are using special tools like connected papers or consensus, there are a few of those, elicit a few. But at the same time, you also can use your usual tool like, I'm sure all of you use something like ChatGPT. Yes? No? Yes? Okay. So you all use ChatGPT. So ChatGPT has special plugins like for research. If you go and look at ChatGPT Explorer, you will find a lot of specific tools designed for research. There's a specific area called research, that's what I'm showing you there, research and analysis. So there's plenty of tools where you can go and use it for brainstorming and come up with research questions. Right? So that's the short answer to the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that insightful discovery into AI, which a lot of people do use. It's become a daily part of many people's lives, especially in Gen Z and Gen X generation. Going on to our next question, which I will direct to Professor Dilip De Silva. Now, Professor Raquel talked about AI, how to generate a research question. Now, the big problem on a lot of people's mind is, do we have the money for it? Do we have the grants for it? So we do have grants from the national level as well as regional level. So bridging on your expertise in money. So what are the aspects and the areas that the national policy delves on? The grants that a lot of people focus a lot of money on.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this forum. Just touch on the financing side of it. As it was showed earlier in the slides, Sri Lanka as a country, we are spending less than 0.12% of the GDP. GDP is the gross income of the country. 0.12% of the gross domestic product on research and development. That's for the entire country, right? Not only medicine. So very poor contribution, and as it was mentioned, we don't have that culture. At least we didn't have that culture. So in the the grants are rather limited in the Sri Lankan context unless you have collaborations. So if I to touch on the main area of you students who are here today, within 3 years you will get into the labor market. And according to the your job market profile, which I was working for 25 years in the Ministry of Health, according to the last 30 year statistics, 94.5 or nearly 95% of all you guys will be joining the Ministry of Health. So that's the key employer for doctors in Sri Lankan context. Right? So if I to touch on the Ministry of Health, out of our total funding in the Ministry of Health, we used to get about 400 billion Sri Lankan rupees. So please forgive me for that not answering the other 5%. I'm targeting the 95% who are joining the Ministry of Health. And Ministry of Health's total fund is about 400 billion Sri Lankan rupees. Billion is 1 and 9 zeros. And out of which we are spending around 5% on research and development. So that's a fairly less money from a research grant point of view. But for you guys, when you become a grade 2 medical officer, that is a preliminary grade medical officer, that just after post interns. You do your interns, then you become eligible to become a medical officer in the Sri Lankan government setup. We call it a preliminary grade or grade 2 medical officer. So all of you guys are entitled for 35% of your salary as a research allowance if you do a research for 3 years. I'll repeat, if your salary is, we say 120,000 rupees per month, 35% is about 42,000. Every month you will be getting 42,000 bucks more than your salary added to your salary as a research allowance for 3 years for single publication. So that's a huge, in addition to getting a publication, it's a huge monetary gain. But sadly, when I left the ministry, I had 23,123 medical officers, out of which only 3,000 have been enjoying this facility. 20,000 are not enjoying. And just one research paper, no need to publish in a very high impact journal, sort of a national or sub-national level journal, that's acceptable. Do the research, publish it. Right? So if you are in the academia, it's a different story, right? As it was mentioned, you are going to be obligated researchers, right? In the academia, you have to do it to get promotions. But in the Ministry of Health, there's no promotions for you for doing research, right? That is your enthusiasm. And also in the time to come, we have a very low transformation rate. I have taught you in your medical community medicine lectures. Still we are going at about 9.6 to 10% transformation rate from a medical doctor to a consultant, which is very low if you compare with UK. It's 98%, in USA it's about 40%. So only about 10% of you will become consultants. That means 90% will start the career as a medical officer and end as a medical officer. Right? So, I mean, that's the niche where you have to target them. What are you doing for any research? So, yes, there are grants, but not as plenty. But if you want, you can do it. Okay? And doing research is going to be very important because up to now, we all recruit you automatically with your MBBS to the government service. So, there would be a time that the ministry may not be able to give automatic employment in time to come. So, then there will be competition among you. Who have research will be shown better than the others. So in short, we have limited funds both at the national level and the ministry level, but if you are really keen, there's a way for it.
Thank you, sir. The next question is actually an extension of the previous question, and it's directed towards Professor Pradeepa Bandaranayake. Madam, now, within our curriculum, most of the student-generated researchers come from our community medicine modules, and a majority among them tend to be descriptive studies for which we use the existing patients in our hospitals. So the cost for those studies are very minimal. And because of this reason, and even when I was a student, the common belief was funding was very hard to get and funding is not always necessary. So, Madam, is funding actually necessary, especially for the medical field? And what are the practical difficulties that we find when getting funding, and what are the opportunities that student level researchers would have to get funding at a university level?
Once again, thank you very much for inviting me for this session. I understand you are third year students and probably second year students as well. So you do research part-time. So it's not a full-time course for you, but still you have an opportunity to do good research. Obviously, if I go to a doctor, I will expect a clinician, but you have to do research and find out more about what you can do for your community as well. So my answer to your question, yes, funding is not essential for some of the research, as Professor Sam Kulratna also showed. But there are many opportunities that you can apply for funding. So the ministry has limited funds, but obviously if you take a screenshot, or if you can even get the help of AI tools right now to search for opportunities for funding, especially foreign funding opportunities. So there's less competition. We think that more competition for foreign funding, but actually less competition. But I understand that you work in a group and you have a supervisor, and your supervisor obviously can be the focal point for such opportunities, and even she or he can continue this research with next group as well. So probably this particular group will not produce a publication, but in the future there will be a publication as well. So you all can contribute to such publications if you start. So when you develop your proposal, so I understand you have a proposal development stage, so you can search for funding opportunities and you can talk to your supervisor. Obviously you have to have a supervisor, especially as a student, but when you graduate, you can write your own grants, but at this point, you have to have a supervisor. And you discuss with your supervisor and develop a proposal and submit for such funding opportunities. So there are websites that you can sign up. Then you will get emails, okay, when there are funding opportunities available, you will get a pop-up and okay, you can apply for this particular funding. So I searched these sites actually as homework for this particular session. So there's a lot for your field, like applied research. But especially the other thing is you can always collaborate with basic science faculties if you want to do with more of lab kind of things, if you want to add further to your research. So collaboration is also part of it. Both speakers highlighted that earlier as well. So being in Peradeniya and having a lot of facilities, science-based faculties as well as engineering, of course you can do a lot of data analysis and other components to be included. You don't have to be an expert in all the fields. You are an expert in your own field, but of course you can collaborate. So when you apply these collaborative projects, actually more opportunities. So even global funding opportunities are for this multidisciplinary and collaborative research, not just isolated now, because funding is limited all around the world. So they want to get more output for the limited amount of money that they spend. So it is very important. So my advice to these young researchers: talk to your supervisors well in advance, and talk to them and come up with a really good proposal, and then submit it for national agencies such as National Science Foundation and other funding bodies available locally is also displayed, but they are very competitive. But the international funding opportunities, starting from the NIH of the US, so there's a lot of opportunities. So you can definitely get good source of funding, and your supervisor will be able to continue further research with the next group. Don't think just for you, but think about the future as well, and apply for a grant and continue, and that will be helpful for you to go for a good publication as well. Even both professors had highlighted these open access publications. It costs. So you need money. Sometimes they ask the question whether you actually need money. So you may need, even at the latter part of your research, when you try to publish, you will need money. And even the university itself has now this National Research Council, but it's our own research council. They also give some money for publication, so that is another avenue. So you can search for funding opportunities. It is not a must, but better to have. So that is my advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. I think that was a good answer to an excuse that a lot of researchers, young researchers give. I mean, we can't do research because we don't have money. I think you gave a very good answer to that. Now, speaking about money, people's eyes light up at the notion of grants. They basically think that, I'm not talking about the majority, but a lot of people do think that grants are like an early Christmas present. It's just free money that you get for your proposal. What's the small print that is associated with grants? Are grants free money? Are there ethical considerations? Are there chains that you are bound to when you get grants? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's a very important question. Yes, it's not free money, of course. It depends on the funding source as well. You have to be really careful when you apply for funding, especially like sometimes drug companies or private sector, they may have some hidden agenda in their profiles that probably will not disclose to you or your supervisor or to the community. So we have to be very careful. I think that is why you have this ethical clearance committee to go through these proposals rigorously. So that is an important component. So I always say that, we as hard science or lab people, we have to search and find research. But for you or samples, you have to go and find. But for you, samples come to you, right? So you just have to collect data. But there's a big ethical clearance and ethical component involved. So that is why you have to go through this ethical clearance committee. Well in advance, I heard that it takes time. Obviously, they have to review your proposal and go through the study. Yes, to answer, it's not free money. Obviously, you have to manage your funds very well and you have to be transparent. Provide the final report and progress reports and sometimes publications or sometimes seminars. So a lot of things are involved. On top of that, depending on the final funding source, they may have some other agenda. Like if you search for example, if I come from like an example from agriculture itself, if you search for coconut milk or coconut and heart health, search for the Google, if you type on Google Scholar, you will see like millions of publications. And if you go through the funding sources and the results that you have seen are very different. Depending on the funding source, maybe the answer is different. So sometimes you say, okay, coconut is good for your health, and sometimes you say coconut is bad for your health. It depends on how they look at, right? What the funding source wants to look at. So you have to be very careful, especially at early stage, because you are not, aware of what is going on, and that is why you have to talk to your supervisor and get their advice. They have gone through this experience. Of course, you have a very eminent group of scientists in front rows as well, and they know how challenging that part, and that is why you have a supervisor, right? Then, so you have to be careful and you have to look at what they actually expect, whether they approve the proposal that you submit, whether it is an independent study or whether it is kind of partial. So there's some kind of sensing at the very end as well. For example, if you think about sugar versus diabetes. So sugar companies probably would not like your research if you come up with this answer versus that answer. Then hidden sensing is going on that we don't know even at publication level. So you will be able to present your data here at your congress, but when you submit it to a journal, probably they will look at it differently. So these are the things that you have to be aware of. So you have to read, you have to understand the hidden agenda, possible clearance that you need in addition, and of course you have to consult. If you are doubtful, you have to consult your supervisors or even other senior people in your community and other collaborators as well. For example, if it is coconut milk, so you can contact someone from food science or any other field whether this is true or whether you have data, whether what they expect is true. So likewise, it is very important. You have to manage funds. You have to be clear about the agenda of the organization. Even the government, when the policies change, they might want to see something else. So you have these results, but the time you finish your publication, they want something else. So your answer will be hidden somewhere, right? Likewise, you have to be very clear about such aspects of your research. but it's very important to handle funding transparently as well. If you get research funding, so I showed you the sources. So even a rupee or 10 rupees, so you have to show what you got and how you manage your funds, even handling this particular event. Also you are learning, so research is also like that. So experience is very important, and application is next level when you graduate. How you do independent research, then you will have that practical experience that is part of the learning, I guess, here as well.
Thank you, madam. Now that was actually a very elaborate answer. So since we talked about funding for about 10 minutes, let's switch topics and get back to AI. So Professor Akhil, now I think majority of the students here, both of us included, at one stage used ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever AI to complete some of our assignments. Some of the answers got very good marks, some of the answers did not. So when it comes to scientific writing, sir, how reliable can these AI tools be? And especially if we are inputting some collected data into AI for analytical purposes, how can we protect data privacy? And would we have to give authorship to AI as well?
Okay, so first thing, whether we can give, I'll start from the end, right? So the authorship for AI. In fact, AI, here when we are talking about AI, we are talking about a specific type of AI called generative AI. A system that can generate things. What we are talking about generating, it can generate text, it can generate videos, any other material, right? So when these tools or systems can generate things, usually we give authorship. We give authorship when it was defined for people who generate things, right? So therefore, at the very beginning, when in 2022, end of 2022 or early 2023, when AI systems started generating and people started using, researchers including, started using, big publishers decided to give authorship to AI tools. There are research articles which were published in good, high impact journals towards the end of 2022, early 2023. They had tools like ChatGPT being given authorship. So ChatGPT is one of the authors. But then over time, we are in the research community, right? And therefore, it is good to experiment, try things out early and figure out what is right, what is wrong. So we have been using, in fact, if you take different disciplines, research is a place where tools like generative AI tools are very well experimented and used. So including this example, what I told you now. So since then we realized, okay, no, this is not really correct, because if you give authorship to a tool, who will take, okay, the authorship means who generated this. That part of the deal is okay, but who is going to take the responsibility? If something goes wrong in what is written, who will take the responsibility of that part? Can it also be given to the same tool and everybody wash their hand and say, no, I don't have any idea, computer did this, right? So that is a problem. Not just in generating text or a publication, but it is true for every other field where AI is used. For example, self-driving cars. That's a big discussion there. Self-driving cars, they drive and they get an accident. Who is responsible? Right? So that's a serious question, and therefore the authorship was taken out. So research community, the publishers and all decided no authorship. So AI cannot be an author, but most of the publication or publishers include AI guidelines, say this is how you can use AI. So that's common now. If you go and look at any major publishers, they all have a page saying this is how you can use AI. So the general idea is that you can use AI as long as you show how you used AI. Right? So you keep it transparent. You give the details, the steps. This is how I used it. Okay, so this is what I did. the research I did, this is the data analysis I did, this is how I used it, and this is the result I got. And then you make your own conclusion. You don't let the AI to make the conclusion and say, okay, AI did this and AI is everything. So that the guidelines are clear, and therefore you have to go and follow the guidelines. So that's about authorship and also related to other things like even reliability is also a question. So obviously the reliability is up to the author, right? So the AI they can use, but then they still have to, the authors have to take the responsibility. Authors meaning the human author. There's no AI author, right? So that's established. So human author has to take, authors have to take the responsibility. And the next part is, when you are dealing with data and if you are going to share data with AI tools, particularly AI tools that are coming for free. Any tools that is coming for free, there is something that they have in return, right? So one, it could be some advertisement that they are showing you. So they make money out of it for the public. So things like even TV is like that, right? So it's free on air, but they earn by advertising. Same with software tools, even tools like any other tool. AI tools are similar, so one they earn money like that. The other one, particularly AI tools, the most important aspect how they earn money is collecting your data. If you pay for it, then you can opt out. You can say don't collect my data. If you are not paying for it, you don't have that option. Right? So yeah, so that's about how the data and privacy you have to be careful about.
Thank you very much, sir. I wish I knew that prompt about don't collect my data before I submitted my photo to generate it as a Studio Ghibli image. So that's a lesson well learned, sir. Moving on to Professor Dilip De Silva. Now, although people believe that they are not entrepreneurs, that they are not engaged in business, as a normal living person, money has a big part in our lives. We are entrepreneurs. Now, sir, you've been at the big boards, you've been in the big table, influencing the policy decisions, and involved in the ministry regarding all the administration. So do you think that the return on investment that our nation gets in, for what we give to researchers, is it worth it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have put a slide, I don't know whether you can retrieve it. Various researchers, I'm speaking of a health medical research. We have a ROI, return on investment, and there's a list there. We say for $1, how much we are getting? Are you on there? Right, this is say there is a study in 2020 by Wellcome Trust and UK Research. They have found out that every pound invested in health research, the return was about 4 to 5 pounds. So it's fourfold. You invest £1, £4 will come in. Then another US NIHS, $1 spent on biomedical research is 2.2 to 4.5 pounds, double, right? And in low and middle income countries, that's the catch there. When you are at the economically lower strata, your ROI is much higher. So in low income countries, it becomes even tenfold. Right? So I have few studies in the Sri Lankan context, though we are not quantifiable, what we have invested in MCH, maternal and child health, the return of investment is huge. Right? And there's a study going on with one of the MD students. Sri Lanka is one of the countries which gave 1 year paid leave for maternity leave. The return of investment then is huge, still not quantifiable. And the child's growth, nutrition, everything develops with that. So there are so many research, and one of the, I don't know if it will come later, one of the main things what we are lacking in the health sector at the moment, we have not done enough research when we start new technologies, new setups in the country, right? Because if we don't invest in the proper way after doing research, it's going to be a waste. I'll tell you one simple point. You know these cochlear implants, if you have a neural deafness, in UK, where the per capita income is 48,000 pounds, US dollars equivalent per capita, per person, somewhere there. We are having only 3,813 per capita.
Sri Lanka. They are area-wise about 2,40,000 square kilometers. We are 65,610 what we studied in school. Now we have to add about 10 kilometers because of the port city. Right? So we are a small country, 1/4 of UK. But in cochlear implants, UK have only 2 centers. We have 11 centers. So what a wastage of money, because unlike a cardiac stent or a bypass, it's not a medical emergency. To do a cochlear implant, you have to screen for 6 months. Experienced surgeon takes only 45 minutes. Post-op management or post-op recovery, rehabilitation, another 2 years. So those things can be done in a center. So I think the Sri Lankan context, if you ask on the research of investment priority, we should prioritize the health research. So as a result, the ministry now has started doing research before they introduce certain techniques to the health sector. But otherwise we are wasting time and money.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think in one of your slides, the national health priority research areas were also mentioned. So we'll go back to Professor Bandaranayake. Now, Madam, in one of the previous sessions, it was told that in the UK and USA, it was either publish or perish. Maybe in a couple, 10, 20 years of time, it will be the same here. So now, Madam, since you're a member of some of the member of the editorial boards of some of the prestigious research journals as well, what would you recommend these undergraduates to do when finding the right journal to publish or the right conference to present in? And especially with regards to the roles of the supervisors and the principal investigators and the corresponding authors, how would you advise these undergraduates in specifying those roles?
Yeah, again, a very good question to start with your research, since we are just starting. One thing, yes, very important to publish positive results as well as negative results. Whatever you get, right, it is important for the community. And application side already highlighted why it is so important as a country as well. So when you select your journals, again, you have to be really careful, because you also probably are getting so many emails, this conference, that conference, and lot of predatory conferences, and offers are very cheap, and they, okay, just $20, okay, you calculate and find out, okay, less than, this much of rupees, and why don't I, publish my paper? But don't trap into, such journals or such conferences. It is bad for your name as well as for your supervisor. You have to be really careful. The fundamental rule is you should discuss these things with your supervisor. Don't try to jump into publications or any sort of presentations without discussing with your supervisor. Supervisor has a very important role here. And you work as a group. I heard 5 members in a group. And again, that question is valid because of how do you decide the authorships. That is again very important. It depends on the country as well. So again, this is something you have to discuss at the very beginning with your supervisor. If it is like all 5 of you are playing a similar role or like equal role in your research, then how do you decide? In such cases, sometimes go by alphabetical order, or like draw kind of lots or something to decide the first author. Because how do we decide the first author? Depending on the contribution. The highest contributed person and written the first draft, that is the US system. And the principal investigator or your supervisor will be the corresponding author. So there's a bigger role for the corresponding author, because you all will graduate and you will be clinicians, so will even leave the country soon. But your supervisor will be responsible for the data, and whatever you have done during your research, your supervisor will be the responsible person. Not only just for the correspondence of the journal, but for the future as well. So she or he has a bigger role to play, so you have to discuss. And your supervisor will be the corresponding author. And the first author, as I said, highest contributed person, how do you select? How do you pick out of 5? So again, you have to come up with a mechanism very early, I would say. So that's very important to decide, because we are promoting publications and go for to publish, and so then these things will matter at the end. Therefore, supervisors can decide how do you decide that at the faculty level or among your research group members. That is one thing. And the other question was regarding the publications. Yes, there are many journals, like I said. Open access journals, for open access journals you have to pay. But I'm going to introduce this special offer. It will be good for all the young academics here as well. PeMSARC' is having this particular offer. Actually, Sri Lanka is among the 64 countries having this. I think the slide is there. So more than 90% of the journals in the list are health science, so medical and health science. So you have this zero, you don't have to pay any for open access publications. So if you have good data already collected, this will be a really good opportunity to go for a Q1 or high ranking journal publication during your undergraduate career, like the previous eminent speakers mentioned. So this will be the first publication from you in a high index journal. And several other groups are also having these offers like PLOS and Elsevier. But this is currently the best one, but I don't know for how long, because this is a project, a pilot project. So better to complete your research and publish soon. And of course, don't trap into these predatory journals. There are sites that you can search for predatory journals. Again, you can get the help of AI tools. So it's at your fingertip now. So you can ask whether this particular journal is a good one, or whether you recommend for this particular publication. Again, many journal groups are giving suggestions. If you upload your abstract or your title, they will suggest a suitable journal for your publication. So this is another way of doing it. I hope I provided an answer.
Quite an insightful answer, madam. In fact, for those of us who don't use email for personal correspondence, the only emails that we get are from predatory journals. More offers than Daraz or even Team, to be honest. We've come a long way. If we look at the people of the caliber of Professor Sam Punaratna and Professor Asir Abegunawardena, these eminent scientists were doing research hard in the library, dusting books of journals and everything. Going back to the next generation, when Shakti and I were doing research before the AI boom, we were using PubMed, advanced search and everything. But these days, after the AI boom, I mean, there's a term called the AI winter, and after the AI boom. So, what aspect or what mindset should students develop regarding AI as a long-term tool in the long run as a researcher? I mean, are we losing most of the magic of the research, the hard work skill? I mean, how should we look at AI, friend or foe?
So, depends on who you are asking, like Pradeepa was saying earlier. Right, so you are asking me, so you know the answer already. Right, I have vested interest. So how do we approach that other question, right? So how do the young students, or you all have to approach AI is the question. I see, I mean, when it comes to the approach, I have actually a concern, although I'm pro AI, but why I go and talk about it a lot is also for this concern, right? So if it is me, like I have been working not just in AI, a particular field, all of us we are considered experts, we know about these fields and what's going on, but learners, new researchers, it's not the case. This is the first time they are going to do some research on a particular topic, right? Or even studies. You all are here in a university to study, and therefore you are said to be, you don't know what's out there, what is correct and what is not. So in situations like this, using a tool and without knowing whether the tool will 100% give you the right answer should be a concern, right? So these tools, they don't guarantee to give the right answer, right? So the way how they are, because when I say the way how they are, what I mean is these tools are giving answers from what is out there, right? So what is out there can be right, can also be wrong. But the first thing as researchers, why we do research in a team and also why there are research supervisors when you start, when young researchers start doing research, is because the supervisor is supposed to guide, supposed to give you the direction, supposed to make decisions, supposed to help you. So those aspects you by yourself as students will not be able to do. Now if you rely on a tool, and if the tool is going to give you all the answers, sometimes better than your supervisors maybe, right? So you are going to be a bit confused. Now this tool seems to be knowing better than your supervisors. Should I trust the tools and not the supervisor? Right, so this is a place where you have to remember the tools can give you the right answer, and also it can give you the wrong one. And the good part about these tools are these, even if they give wrong answer, they'll give it to you with a very good confidence. Right? They'll tell you for sure, this is the reason why my answer is right, even if it is wrong. Right? So the attitude you have to take is, you have to be careful, do your research, and particularly get help. Get help from those who are experts, those who know more about the tools. Right? So it's all good to use these tools to do things faster. Right? In fact, a recent study is talking, they are done research analysis and figured with these tools it's possible to accelerate, particularly things like literature survey. Right? You can do it very, very fast, because you can use all these tools to find resources so fast. Yes, when you were doing research, you were using maybe search, PubMed. Right? When we were doing research, we didn't even have Google search. Right? So that's where we started. But then we can how fast we can do research now. What does it mean? If you can do research, if you can do all this search and literature search and all this faster, you should expect better results. Right? So because we have, for example, if you take a university like this, we have not changed the amount of time we give to students for doing, let's say, literature survey. Right? So in our faculty for a PG research, we expect the very first literature survey to be done in 3 months. Very first one, and then obviously iterate. Very first 3 months. Now in 3 months, if you use Google, PubMed and all to do research, literature survey 3 months. Now if you can use all these connected papers and whatnot, what do we expect? Are we expecting them to do work only part-time for the 3 months? Or casual for the 3 months? Or if you are expecting the exact 3 months, what I would expect is to do the research for 3 months, but produce much better results. Right? So obviously do that, use it and get better results, and also make sure these tools are not always, understand that these tools are not always producing the right results. So therefore get help and get your supervisor's advice.
Alright, thank you very much, sir. I think especially considering the trends of research that is going and how AI is being integrated, that would be very useful for our young researchers going forward. Now, this next question is going to be the last question in the individually directed questions segment, and the question is for Professor Dilip De Silva. Sir, now, University of Peradeniya has 9 faculties in very close proximity. While it creates some problems of its own sometimes, but it also creates some unique opportunities for collaborations. However, seeing as how our undergraduate researches are going, we don't, at least at the undergraduate stage, we don't see much collaborations going on. If you could explain how this collaborative aspect of research helps the person to broaden their horizons, and opportunities that are present in the university level to find these kind of collaborations, I think that will be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And to answer that question, if I go on my own lifespan, I am not a researcher, right? I was working in a very competitive Ministry of Health. It's like firefighting, right? So one of my main tasks was by 8th of each and every month, I have to have 15 billion Sri Lankan rupees, 15 billion to pay the salaries by 24th. But the staff load is 1,51,000. consisting of 2,300 medical consultants, 23,000 doctors, 44,000 nursing officers, 9,000 PSM categories, 11,000 midwives, so on and so forth. Right? So this is like firefighting. But still, so I'm rather new. I'm still on my third year as an academic. Right? Very few research, but still I came to this level because of that multi-sectorial approach. So if you can have the multi-sectorial approach, it's a must. Right? So we have 9 faculties, and why can't we do it? Because proximity-wise, we are within the same campus. So that's the way forward. All my other 2 colleagues will have combine. I think even at your faculty level, undergraduate level, without sticking to community medicine, get them to find supervisors from the other faculties. In other universities like that, right? Get them to find supervisors from the other faculties. Then it will broaden your horizon. Right? Because what I feel is I teach in a couple of universities, and the medical students are rather sort of very tunnel vision, in the sense you are not getting exposed to many fields. In the engineering faculties, it will be better than that. Right? So you have to sort of shed that tunnel vision and get yourself exposed. And my faculty is even so narrow that they know only about the tooth. Right? So you have to go beyond that and try to get with yourself. And this is, I don't think not only in Sri Lanka, in many of the countries, we have a concentration of PhDs. Our per capita PhD is so high within this faculty. Out of that 800 academic staff, on average, about 30% are PhDs. So we have quite a good of resources. So multi-sectorial, multidiscipline research is the must. So I would invite Samindi, why not to get for your next batch. Get your students for engineering faculty, agri, vet, arts, right? So they'll get a better output, and the ministry will have less problems when you come for employment as doctors, because you are already learned to work with the other people. So that would be a good thing in the longer run.
So this is an open question to all 3 of you, and Sachis is kind of pushing me to ask this question. Now, the question is, Sir, Professor Dilip talked about how the 95% who end up as medical officers and consultants, how they can benefit from research. Now, there's obviously, when you become an academic, research would be at the core of your qualifications. If this is again open question for all 3 of you, if you can talk a bit about that, the benefits that as academics you will get from having good publications.
Well, I think my colleagues will speak more about that. So academic, of course, is obligatory, because you cannot, from starting as a demonstrator to temporary lecturer, senior lecturer, grade 2, grade 1, professor, associate professor, senior professor, chair professor, that ladder. The research is an embedded component in your academic career, but not in the ministry. Ministry, doing research will not give you anything sort of tangible. So that's one of the reasons why these papers are coming there, unless you are really keen on doing. And that's the very reason we introduced this 30%, 35% of the salary for the researchers. So yes, in the university stuff is a must, and good quality research has to come out from these faculties. And sadly, like our recruitment patterns also, I think, matters now. Normally, according to, I don't know, the your 2 faculties, dental faculty and medical faculty, the first few people who get the highest GPA or first classes are automatically taken into the staff. But in some top universities like Cambridge and Oxford, even if you get a top first class, you are not going to be taken into staff for at least 5 years. You have to work outside and come. So that means you have to get more and more exposure. So I think for the academics is a must, but the ministry people is not a must, but still better do it. But if you are doing any postgraduate studies, in the PGI we offer about 121 courses now in postgraduate medical sciences in 60 main fields and 91 subspecialties. There the research component is quite high now, right? The highest is in the community medicine. The others, at least you have to do a research project, and 2 or 3 publications is a must before you become a board certified consultant. At the PGIM, there's the postgraduate Institute of Medicine, where at the moment the only institution which trains medical consultants. PGIM is very in infancy, where we have started at Peradeniya. So that's the research component for the doctors who are in the Ministry of Health.
Thank you very much, sir, and I think you were.
I think yes, research is very important for academics because you have to have research to get the promotions, and then when you become a professor or when you are good at your research field, you get other opportunities. You notice that I have won a lot of fellowships and a lot of awards. That's because of my research interest and research publications. So you have to have publications to get grants, and to get grants you have to have publications. It's like with the chicken and egg question, and for the promotions as well. So to become a leading person in your field, you have to have this research experience, because this is where the novelty comes in, and all the innovations and new findings, and those things come with research. So that is why for academics, research is very important, and even for the teaching component, I'm sure your academics also bring their research experience as examples. So this is what you have seen. Then it goes to your mind. For you, yes, clinicals are very important, applications are very important, but to come up with new things, you have to think differently. So these innovative ideas come actually with research. But now, since AI is available, you can search very easily. Obviously, very easy to do research right now, I would say, compared to our days. So you have to explore these opportunities, and especially since you are doing this part-time. So it's different from our faculties. In our faculties, actually in agriculture and even engineering, I guess now it's full-time. Agriculture and sciences is full-time. So now in your case, it's part-time. So you have to, probably not even part-time, right? Very small component of your time will be spent for research. But if you use these tools and collaborations effectively, obviously you will be able to do a better job in this environment with all 9 faculties. Even social science component is now very important for research, especially for your field, I guess, community medicine. And even to connect that with lab research, you have all the facilities available on campus in Peradeniya. So explore these opportunities, talk to your supervisors, and good luck.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think the 2 moderators and 3 resource persons have spoken enough. It's the turn of the audience. You've been listening for 1 hour. Now you may have a lot of burning questions from 3 different aspects of research: AI, funding, and grants. It's your time. The microphone is yours. So if you do have a question, please raise your hands and indicate, and our logistics teams will get to you. Any question that you may ask towards our esteemed panel.
I think, first of all, thank you to our panelists. I think this is a very insightful discussion. Professor Raghel, my question is to you. Now, with AI, the generative powers of AI continually improving day after day, month after month, do you envision a future where one day AI takes full control of research? AI does its own research.
So, future, right? Yeah, how far you don't define, and therefore the answer is yes. In fact, like that is what we also wanted. We meaning the humanity. That is why we have made machines, and we are making them as closely like us as possible. But the point is, I think we are doing it wrong, right? So what I mean by that is, when we want to build machines, we are trying to build them like us. We think we are the best in everything that we do, right? But that is not always true. We are not the best in everything that we do. For example, we need to eat, we need to sleep, right? So, but we can build machines which don't have to sleep and eat, for example, a simple example, right? So, therefore, what I'm trying to say is the research, even though there are discussions, there are on how we can use AI to complement what we do, right? So that is one angle. So one angle, we don't have to make machines to do things that we do as best as possible. Like for instance, this picture I was showing earlier. So this comparison is meaningless, although I'm showing this, right? So this comparison is about how AI tools can do compared to people. Right? So we have a a line drawn there in black at the top to say how good people can do certain things. Like for example, reading. How good people can read and comprehend, and how AI tools can do, right? So what we have to realize is couple of things. One, maybe we don't have to do such a comparison. We have to figure out the places where the machine can't do and we can do, and vice versa, right? So even now, if you look at something else I wanted to show is, yeah, so this is the latest 2025 World Economic Forum Future of Jobs. So what they're talking about is the core skills anyone, any human, including doctors, have to have as skills, core skills, as of now, right? So if you look at the top list, I'm sorry, it's too small, but the top list, it talks about things like resilience, leadership, and critical thinking is also there, creativity, and so on, right? So, and things like talent management, right? So these are areas we earlier thought are very soft. Soft skills, we call them actually in engineering, and even in, I believe in even your disciplines, they are not given enough importance, and we thought the core skills are things that, like if you take engineering, we thought core skills are things like how we design things, how do we do mathematics, how do we model them, how do we analyze. So those are things that we thought are core skills, and we gave very little importance to things like leadership, managing people, communicating with people, understanding it. So I think like places like medicine, you are okay to some extent with things like ethics, but we are not. We do engineering, we do ethics, but as a module, that's all, right? So very bad at ethics we are, right? So, but now we have started realizing for us to be human, these are the skills we have to have, and therefore we have to complement each other. So whether AI can come and do research and keep us human, why not?
So my question is, thank you very much for that very insightful discussion. So the one thing that I wanted to know, because when we did research, one thing that we wanted to know was that although we are doing research, it's mostly theoretical. So if there was any way that we could plan to make it more of a translational research, so that ultimately when there is a conclusion that comes out of it, it could be given in a proper way to be implemented in a way, if it's actually done in a proper way. And another question, just an add-on to that, might not be relevant for today's discussion, but I just thought this is a curious question to ask. Given your profile, there are a lot of achievements that our esteemed panel members have had. And specifically, I just want to ask this question, I'm just leaving it open. How is it, do you think that your past, especially your school, has helped or played a role in what you've become today? Because we have one of the esteemed panelist members whose motto, I guess, would be Esto Perpetuum, be thou forever. So, keeping that in mind and the translation aspect of things, so I'm just leaving the question over to you. Thank you very much.
By hearing to that motto, it's the motto which I use for 13 years in my school. To say the least, that I'm doing a study still on the manuscript stage or just about to publish it. I did a transformation from which faculty we get the more consultants, and I just touched it on the case enumeration as well. So yes, there are certain schools which are producing higher percentage than the national average. To tell the least, if you want more details, so speak to me in person. Right? Yes, to a certain extent, but not total. You can have a pickup, but especially in the research and the government sector, that will not carry much weightage as it was earlier. The things are changing, the economic scenario is changing, profile is changing. So it's open for everybody now. But having said that, still there is some component, this is my personal view, you may be disagreed, and there is some component that it will head up. I mean, even a university like, okay, if you are going to Eton, Oxford, as somebody is saying, Professor Asiri was saying that
I mean, they said, okay, who are you? You're from Sri Lanka. All other employees are from Oxford. So that name has something. But I'm happy generally we are not sort of discriminating whatsoever when it comes to employment, especially in the state sector. Private sector, yes, maybe, right? But state sector all are equal and your degrees are equally recognized. So that's my personal view. And yes, that's something if you ask in that sense.
Right, I'm pretty sure there are more questions, but unfortunately, since we are running out of time and since there is most of the students have another commitment at 5 p.m., we'll wrap up the session. We'd like to thank the members of our esteemed panel again for their participation amidst their very busy schedules, and we'd like to ask them to remain on stage for a few more minutes while the computers take over the proceedings.
Thank you, moderators and panelists. And now, to acknowledge the generous wealth of knowledge shared by our three eminent panelists, firstly, I would like to invite Conference Chairperson, Professor Samidhi Navaratne, to award the certificate to Professor Dilip De Silva. And now, I would like to invite the Secretary of PeMSARC 2025, Dr. Sayuri Pereira, to award the certificates to Professor Pradeepa Bandaranayake. Again, I would like to invite Conference Chairperson, Professor Samidhi Navaratne, to award the certificate to Professor Roshan Rani.
Thank you, sirs and madam. And before we wrap up today's proceedings, please welcome the student chairperson, Mr. Jude Melika, for the vote of thanks.
Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Samanna Nyakaran, Conference Chairperson of PeMSARC 25, Professor Samidhi Navaratne, Conference Secretary of PeMSARC 25, Dr. Sayuri Pereira, respected resource persons of this pre-Congress workshop of PeMSARC 25, members of the faculty staff, and fellow brothers and sisters. Good evening, everyone. It truly is a pleasure to stand before you and deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing committee of PeMSARC 25 at the conclusion of what has been a truly spectacular pre-Congress workshop. First and foremost, I'd like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers and panelists for taking time out of their, I'm sure, incredibly busy schedules and contributing to PeMSARC 25 in such an exceptional fashion. I believe all of us here today have gained immense insight and inspiration from your words and wisdom. A vital and valued partner in the journey of PeMSARC, I would like to acknowledge and extend our continued appreciation to PeMSARC UK for their generous sponsorship of this year's pre-Congress workshop, as they have done over the past 3 iterations of this event as well. We truly could not have pulled this off without your invaluable support. A sincere thank you to our Dean and faculty members, and also the generous services of the Technical Resource Committee and the e-Library for being a constant source of guidance and collaboration in what has become a wonderful partnership between the staff and student bodies of this great faculty. We hope these efforts will continue and flourish in the years ahead. To our participants, thank you for your presence and enthusiastic involvement. It's your curiosity and engagement that have made today's sessions interactive, lively, and meaningful. I sincerely hope that our efforts have helped nurture the spirit of inquiry that lies within each and every one of us. I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't make a special mention of the team and volunteers in the PeMSARC organizing committee who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes to bring this event to life. From tech support to comparing to the refreshments we've enjoyed, none of this would have been possible without your unwavering commitment and dedication. And as we close for the day, I hold faith in the thought that today's workshop has sparked new ideas, encouraged conversation, and added meaningful value to our journey as researchers, clinicians, and future leaders of our profession. We look forward to welcome you all to the main conference in a few days' time. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening ahead.
Finally, let us all rise for the national anthem.